Hola everybody, oi, tudo bem? Spanish, Portuguese, whatever. This is Professor Jason, hopefully your guide to Spanish and Portuguese here on the intertubes. And what I want to do today is show you how to easily configure your keyboard so that its input language is different and you can more easily insert foreign characters. So we're going to do that in two parts. First, I'm going to show you how to change your keyboard's configuration, the input language, which only slightly changes how it's configured, and it won't really affect your day-to-day typing, for example. And then secondly, I'm going to walk you through each of the different types of accents that are most commonly used in Spanish, French, and Portuguese, for example, and show you how to easily insert those once you've changed your keyboard to what's called US International or English US International. So that's the first step, changing the keyboard. Let's take a look at that now. Okay, so let's take a look at how to change the input language for your keyboard. I'm using Windows 7, but a lot of this will apply to different operating systems in Windows, different versions. So you go to the Start button if you're lucky enough to still have one, and you are going to select the control panel. So in any event, get to the control panel. I think it's easiest if you are showing the category. Sometimes a different configuration will come up. Show the category view within the control panel. There is one option called Clock Language and Region. There's even an option called Change Keyboards or Other Input Methods. That's where we want to go, so select that one. That brings up a dialog box called Region and Language. Make sure that you select Keyboards and Languages tab, and then we're going to click on the Change Keyboards button. Alright, this brings up, of course this is Windows, so it's bringing up various dialog boxes. Make sure it'll say Text Services and Input Languages. Make sure you've selected the General tab. Right here where it says Default Input Language, select one of the installed input languages to use as the default for all input fields. Mine right now says English, United States, US. We want to change that. So down here where it says Add, I'm going to click on that button. I'm going to scroll down to English, United States. For some reason this option, at least on my keyboard, my version of Windows, is not available under other English input language options. So I'm going to open or expand that English United States option, and I'm going to select under keyboard United States International as my new or default input language option. Select that, OK. And there it is. I'm going to click on it just for good measure, because you never know with Windows. I'm going to click Apply. Why there's Apply and OK, we'll never know. I do that again just to be on the safe side. Apply and then OK. So now, at least in theory, I've changed the configuration of my keyboard so that the input language is now US International, English US International. OK, I can close these. Now, down in the bottom, if you want to follow the cursor, down in the bottom right, you may have this little keyboard icon, right? And you just want to make sure, if it still says US or some other input option, you want to make sure to change that to United States International. Okay, right here. For some reason it's not working. All right, there. You can also show language bar, and again, that'll float it to the top of the screen. So you want it to be United States International. Okay. Now in the next segment, I'll show you how to use this new keyboard configuration to input the different foreign language characters. Okay, now that was pretty simple, right? Just changing the keyboard input language over to English US International. What we're going to do now is I'm going to walk you through each of the most common types of accents and show you how you can easily insert them as you type, having changed your keyboard to US International. So, hope this second part makes sense. Here we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is basically share my screen. I've got a Word document open that I've prepared to walk you through the different types of accents. Have a little graphics, so maybe that'll help you to better understand the keystrokes. We'll see. So for acute accents, which are the ones you see in words like café, Panama, hablé, escribí, right, that slant upward and to the right. The way to, once you've configured your keyboard to English US International, as I showed in the previous segment, the way that you actually insert these as you're writing along is you hit the apostrophe key here and then the letter. So if I want to do an A, I hit apostrophe. Oops, I need to configure my keyboard apparently. Yep, alright. Apostrophe A, apostrophe E, apostrophe I, or I can type them together simultaneously. I just usually have to press down the apostrophe first. So, okay. So that's how you do the acute accents. If you want to do them uppercase, as with all the accents we'll see as I go through this video, you activate it by pressing down the same key, but then you hit shift and the letter. So just how you would normally do a capital letter. So I hit apostrophe and then like shift E. Apostrophe, shift I, like that. So those are your acute accents. Again, just to review, apostrophe, then the letter. It's pretty straightforward. Okay? And again, this is once you have the English US International Keyboard activated. Let's move on then to grave accents, which you see a lot in French and in Italian. Okay? These are the accents that go up and to the left, right? Like in the word café or la in Italian, or in the Portuguese phenomenon known as crasi, right? When you take an a, okay, and combine it with the preposition a with the article a, right? We get this, or in the plural, this, okay? So how do we write this? How do we insert these accents? Oops. All right. What you do for the lowercase is you hit the grave accent key, which is usually right above the tab, right? So most keyboards that are laid out this way, they'll have the grave accent, and above that is the tilde, you know, the ñ key, which you would get by clicking shift. But we're not going to do shift. We're just going to click grave accent, then the letter. So, for example, over here, just to give you an example, grave accent, then E, grave accent, O, or grave accent and O. Hold it down simultaneously. Okay, it works either way. Okay, so you hit the grave accent key, then the letter. To do the capitals, you would obviously just hit the grave accent key and then shift in the letter. I don't know how often these come up. Okay, so that's the grave accent. Moving on, and again, all of this is once we have our US International Keyboard activated. All right, for the circumflex, right, which are these little carets over the vowels, usually over E's, sometimes over O's, okay? What you do is you hit the caret key, which requires you to hit shift and 6, right? Shift 6, right above the 6 is the caret, okay? And then the letter. So for example, if I want to spell Inglés in Portuguese, I-N-G-L, then I hit shift 6, then ES, right? Portuguese. G-U, shift 6, then the letter, okay? Forêt, I don't know if I said that right in French, right? Shift 6, then E, then T, okay? And again, for the uppercase, you would hit the caret, which is shift 6. Remember, to generate this, or to activate this, I'm hitting shift 6, then to do a capital, I would hit shift and then the letter. So shift 6, shift E, shift 6, shift O. Okay. So we're not doing any complicated alt codes or multiple keystrokes. It's usually just one key and then the letter we want. Okay. Moving on to the umlaut, or the diacritics, or just the what people call the two dots over a letter. You can see examples in Spanish words like lingüística or nicaragüense. Okay, lingüística nicaragüense. Normally this sequence would be a hard G, gi, like in guía, or ge, right? But the umlaut makes it a sort of GW sound, if you will. Okay? So how do we produce that or insert that? You actually use the quotation key, which obviously you need the shift button to activate. So shift, quote, and then usually the U, although it could be any letter, the U, excuse me. So I'm going to go shift, quote, I, oops, shift, quote, I, right, quotation mark, U, oops, can't hold it down too long, U, okay. So it's usually then. That's why I wrote the quotation mark, then the letter. You don't have to hit them simultaneously. So I go shift quote, U. I don't know if you can hear that. Shift quote, E. Oops. Shift quote, E. Right? Shift quote, U. Okay. So it's a two-key sequence, I guess, in that sense. And then for the capital letters, same thing. Quotation mark or shift quote, and then shift and the letter. And I don't think this would be very common, but just to illustrate it, shift quote and then U, right? Shift quote I. So it's very easy to do once you get the hang of it. So that's the umlaut, or the two dots over a letter. Here we have, obviously in Spanish, this one is very important, but you also see it in Portuguese to indicate nasal vowels, such as in words like mãe, pão, or lições, okay? Año, leña, niño in Spanish. There is actually a tilde key, right? But this really only works correctly if you have your US International Keyboard configured. So I'm going to click, or I'm going to press the tilde key, which requires shift tilde, right? Shift tilde, because it's the upper key, the upper symbol on that key. Shift tilde and then the letter, right? Shift tilde, then the letter. Doesn't work with all letters. Shift tilde doesn't work with that one. Shift tilde O. Pretty much works with these letters, okay? So, to capitalize that, same thing. Shift tilde, right? Shift tilde, shift tilde, shift N, okay? So, there are some words where you would use this, right? There's a place in Chile, Nuñoa. No, that's not right. It's just like this. But what about the Argentine dish, gnocchis, okay? So, it is shift tilde and then the letter you want the squiggly line over, or the N, right? Give an example in Portuguese, P, shift tilde, A, O, pão, right? So that is the tilde. And I think we've got one more to show you, and that's the cedilla, or the cedilla in Portuguese. And you see it a lot in Portuguese words, obviously, when you want the letter C to be pronounced as if it were an S, cabeça, lição, maçã, okay? This one you actually, it's similar to the acute accent in that you hit the apostrophe key and then you hit C. So it's very simple. You just go apostrophe C, oops, apostrophe C, apostrophe capital C. Very simple. That's how you produce the cedilla, okay? So you can review this, rewind, do a little bit of practice, but that's the process. You switch your keyboard configuration or input language to English, United States International, US International, and then you follow these instructions, right, to produce or to insert your different types of accents or other diacritical marks. Alright, now if you're still with me, that concludes my lesson on how to change your keyboard input language so that you can more easily insert special foreign characters. Hope it made sense. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment here in the comments section. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you online at one of my Portuguese or Spanish lessons, and you can follow me on social media. Até breve. Hasta luego. Ciao.